About me, Natasha, I am the founder and CEO of NBR Strategic Solutions. What do? We're big on, strategy. It's a big part of what I do. But it's coaching, it's speaking, it's consulting, and at the end of the day, it's all to help you achieve your goals and your dreams. So if we're working together one-on-one, I am an international certified health and life coach. I help my clients to create goals, figure out your purpose, and then I give you the strategy. I work with you on the strategy to achieve the desired outcome. And I do that using a variety of methods, a variety of strategies. My keyword, strategy. It may be working on mindset, critical part of what I do. Your thoughts are so powerful. Your thoughts determine whether you are successful in achieving a desired outcome or not. What are you saying to yourself every day? Do you believe in your goal? Do you believe in your dream? Do you believe in your business? Secondly, I host events to empower men and women, and we have 2 events coming up, November 20th and 21st. Ladies out there, boss queens, I want you to save the date. November 20th and 21st, it is a 3rd annual Ladies Boss Up Seminar. We're talking all about day 1, the vision. What is the big grandiose vision that you want to achieve? And then day 2, I'm having a bunch of speakers come in for every component of creating an effective strategy. And we're going to do that in 2 days and set you up for success for 2021. Tickets will be going on sale this week, so stay tuned. November 20th and 21st. That's a Friday and a Saturday. Secondly, I got something for the kings out there. I'm excited. It is the 1st annual Kings Boss Up Seminar. Well, I shouldn't say Boss Up. I said Boss King Seminar. And we're talking all about business. Maybe you have your own business or you want to start your own business. This is going to be for you. We're also talking about relationships, health, a bunch of topics that relate to men. And I'm excited. So that's going to be November 27th. So save the date. Last but not least, on the strategic side, I work with, again, entrepreneurs, business owners, corporations, nonprofits on the strategy. Strategy is key. How do you achieve a desired outcome or result? I help you build the strategy, and I have a team who can help you execute on that. All right. So now that you know enough about me, feel free to tell me where you're from. Where are you in the audience? Are you in Canada? I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I was born and raised here. My parents are Jamaican. Jamaica! Who wants to be in the island right now? I know I do. It's very cold in Calgary. We got some snow. And that's about me. Where are you from? Put it in the comment section. Canada, USA, where in the Caribbean, where? I want to know where you're from. Now, let's dive in. I want to introduce my lovely guest, Dr. Chavonne Perotte, and she has an extensive bio, and I'm going to allow her to share more about herself, but I'll just give you a little preview about who she is and, why she does what she does. I think a big part of being an entrepreneur when you go into business is definitely focusing on the solution. What do you provide? What is the solution that you're providing? There's a problem, you have a solution, then you're in business, right? So that's a big part of what she does, and I'm excited to have her today. So, Dr. Chavonne Perotte is a marriage coach who helps women and couples develop the mindset, to create happy marriages. She believes the quickest path to improving a marriage starts with accessing the ways we as individuals think and how we can grow and evolve. And it's a way of strengthening our relationships rather than needing our spouses to change. That's true. You can never go into a relationship thinking that you can change a person. Never. Accept them for who they are, where they're at, and hopefully, that person will continue to grow and evolve as hopefully you do too. Dr. Chavonne is a trained social science researcher. She received her doctorate from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and focused her research on communication and intimate partnerships. She's the author of Voices in Your Ear, New Conversations to Transform Your Mind and Renew Your Marriage, and is the founder of Relatable LLC. So, without further ado, hello, beautiful.
Hello, beautiful. Right back at you. How are you? Let me adjust my volume. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. Can everybody hear her okay and hear me okay out there? Can you hear us okay? Give me a yes, a thumbs up, or something. So how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. You're looking lovely. I like the
So are you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So I just shared a little bit with the audience about who you are, but I want to give you a chance because this is like my favorite question is who are you? Who's Dr. Chavonne?
Yes. So, hello, everybody. Yes, Dr. Chavonne. I can describe myself in many ways, but for this conversation, I will describe myself as a life and marriage coach. And what I do is I really, if I were to boil it down in the most simplest terms, I help people get out of their own way so they can get back to enjoying and loving being married again. So, that's what I do.
All
That's
right,
who I am.
wonderful. And I said, even for the people that are not married out there, that's okay, or divorced, that's okay. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of something that you can take away from this conversation for when you do head down the aisle, tips to keep you in a happy marriage, right? I think
Yeah.
we think marriage is easy, but marriage is not easy. It's a lot of work, isn't it?
Well, there's so many parallels between marriage and entrepreneurship. So I could replace, like, I help you get out of your own way so you can enjoy any relationship, any experience in your life more. And I really love being an entrepreneur, doing this work, because the overlap between the mindset of a successful business is so similar to the mindset of a successful marriage.
I love that. Do you hear that, people? I'm all big about mindset and how that relates to your business and in marriage. And the same thing I can agree, Dr. Chavonne, is when I have clients, a lot of times they come to me for business, but there's a lot of underlying issues that are happening in their relationships or their confidence or the fact of like just doubting that they can do what they want to do. So mindset is so critical to success in any relationship, business, partnerships, or whatever. So I love that you touched on that. Why don't you share maybe like a funny fact about yourself that your friends or your family wouldn't know about you?
Hmm. Well, they would know this, but most people in the world wouldn't know this. So, my husband and I were actually on the Newlywed Game Show.
No way.
Believe it or not, it was quite entertaining. We are both very competitive people, and we like tried to get a secret strategy for how we were going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Last place, totally last place in the show, but it was a really fun experience.
That's okay, right? I'm sure you learned
Yeah.
a lot in the whole process.
Well, yes, I wasn't a coach then, so I did not take it well. But since then, I can look back fondly and fail forward that experience.
I hear that, right? There's always a positive, even in the negative. Even if you don't have
Yeah.
the outcome, there's always something that you can learn or grow from. I always say those pain points come for a reason, or those disappointments. Like my dad always says, every disappointment is an appointment. So it's
Yes.
all about how we look at it, right? Mindset again. So what do you do for fun? Like I know you're a busy mom, wife, business owner, but when you're not doing all of that, what do you do to relax and unwind?
Honestly, I take a nap. I can't even tell you. It's funny because when we had our first child, which was 6 years ago, I just kind of stopped watching TV. I used to be a huge TV junkie and, like trying to be the quote unquote good mom. I was like, oh, we're not going to watch a lot of TV around her. And I just sort of like lost my appetite for watching TV. And so now, honestly, my favorite thing to do is take a nap. I'm not even lying. It's kind of boring, but especially with COVID, I'm like, well, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm in New Jersey in the States. So things are still pretty topsy-turvy here with all of that. So,
Oh yeah, you are from New Jersey. So, and COVID, yeah, I know it's one of those things. Now people are back, kids are back in school. Cases are rising. The fear is rising. So I don't want to streamline down that path. But again, I hear you. So a nap, you like having a nap when you're not
I
in the
like
hustle
having a
and
nap.
bustle of everything else, and
Yeah.
that's fair. You need to be able to rest up. I say keep yourself rejuvenated, and however you do that, whatever works for you is what you should do, right? So
Hmm.
okay, now that we've talked a little bit about what you do for fun, which is having a nap when you can, and your hidden ventures on the Newlywed Show with your hubby a while ago, that's exciting. What I would say, like how long have you been an entrepreneur for? When did you begin your business? How long ago was that?
Yeah, so I started my business 6 years ago. It was while I was on maternity leave with my daughter.
Mhm.
And literally, I was watching a show, Oprah, Super Soul Sunday,
Yes.
and she was interviewing Stephen Pressfield, and he has a book. It's called The War on Art, which is different than the art of war. But the
Mhm.
whole point of the book was we all have some purpose, which I think you will resonate with. We have some purpose, some higher calling, something we, have the nudge to do, but we experience all this resistance that keeps us from doing it. And so I was listening to that interview and I was like, man, I should get this book. And I realized, I was like, the whole point of his book is stop resisting the resistance and just do the thing you want to do. And literally, that was the moment that I decided I wanted to pull together a business that I loved. So I had a lot of different interests. I loved planning events. I loved doing workshops. I liked creating programs, which was what I did professionally. I liked mentoring people. And I just decided I was going to figure it all out. I decided I was going to pull it all together and do whatever came to me to do. And that's really how Relatable was born. I just decided to do all the things. And so my husband and I did couples events, I did workshops, I did teleseminars for people's groups, I created programs. And now my work really is more streamlined. I've gotten a lot of coaching
Yeah.
and a lot of strategy and a lot of
Yeah.
mindset. And so my work is much more streamlined now, where I primarily do one-on-one coaching. And I have a podcast, I have a Facebook group, I have a lot of other free resources for how people can access my information. But that's kind of the beginning stages of how I've ended up where I am now 6 years later.
Yes, it's like when you start a business, it's like a baby, right?
It
And
is.
it is. You guys think people, if you think you go to business easy, it's not. It's a lot of work. It's just like an infant. You have the infancy stage, which is really where you're really getting super clear around what you want to do, how you want to do it, especially when you have lots of gifts and talents, right? How do you create a business that's going to function and grow without burning yourself out, right? And I feel like once you get clear about that, create the strategy and you execute. And the thing is, sometimes the strategy may not work, but that doesn't mean you stop, right? You find another one and you keep going. So kudos to you. You're 6 years in. Tell me who or what inspires you.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I think I have a lot of people that inspire me. One is really the person that inspired me to be a life coach in the first place, Brooke Castillo. She runs a school, the Life Coach School, also a podcast. And that's actually how I got introduced to coaching. So again, being a new mom, I was nursing my daughter and I was like, well, if I'm going to be up in the middle of the night and I'm not watching TV anymore, I need
Yeah.
something to like feed my mind. And somehow I found her podcast. It was right when she started it. And it literally changed my whole like view of my life, my view of my experiences. And so that has been such an inspiration. And then, you know, people who follow her sort of like congregate together. And so I've had a lot of other mentors since finding her, and a lot of other coaches along in the same veins. But those are the people that inspire me. I'm also inspired just by God. I have to say, like, when I think about coaching and when I think about what it is, it's taking a person from where they are now to where they want to be and helping them transform into the highest, best version of themselves, both as an individual, as part of a couple, as a business owner. It really feels just like a beautiful marriage between my own beliefs being used with the skills and the gifts that I have to be able to share those with others to help them advance their life.
I love it. That's what I like when I work with a client. I say this in a nutshell: I'm transforming lives from the inside out, and you can see that client grow and evolve, and you can celebrate those successes. For me, it's like the best gift ever. Like, obviously, you get paid to do it, but I would have done it for free, even if it wasn't a business, because I knew that fulfills me. And that's the thing, people. When you start a business or whatever that may look like, make sure that your purpose is aligned. I say, because that's going to keep you motivated on the days where you feel like giving up, because it's not always peaches and cream. It takes time to build a business from the ground up. I say the first 5 years are the toughest, but you got to stay motivated. And so how do you decide to focus on marriage? Because that's really what we're going to be talking about today. People's love and marriage, even if you're in a relationship or you want to get in a relationship, what are some of the key things that you need to focus on, or I say, evolve into, or have, manage first before entering into a partnership? But what drew your interest in marriage?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's actually, I studied relationships. So I've always been fascinated by relationships. I worked for a nonprofit for 8 years, developing and doing training on healthy relationships. And so doing something like with relationships was a natural sort of place for me to go. But what I say is I entered this with a like with a position of expertise. I was like, oh, I know this stuff. Like, these are the healthy things you do. This is what, you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then as my own life and marriage unfolded, I became like my both best and worst client, right? And so I really found myself, having my own struggles in my own relationship and really needing to lean on the tools that I was helping other people with. And, with anything in life, whether it's the relationship with yourself, the relationship with your family, the relationship with a spouse, or the relationship with your business, it's a constant work in progress, right? You're always having things to respond to. You're always having circumstances come up that test what you think you know, that test who you think you are. And just like you said, those are always the opportunities to show you who you are. Those are the opportunities for you to sort of rise to the occasion. And so being a marriage coach and also working on my own marriage, I think has really helped me really relate and understand the struggles of my clients at a level that I would have never done before, which is another thing that I just love about the field of coaching, where, many people coach on the thing that they're passionate about, of course, but it's also the area that they're constantly focused on and the area that they're always doing the work in. And I think it is, just like you said, both a challenging and a beautiful thing at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to know, before I ask a little bit more, dig in a bit deep. How long have you been married for?
9 years. We've been married
9 years.
9 years.
My
Yeah.
favorite number, 9 years. Okay, 9. So hopefully we're wishing for another 30, 40, 50, years for you. What would you say are some of the challenges that you hear from your clients in a marriage or relationship? What are people, especially with COVID, right? A lot of people are locked at home now. They got to work from home. They're seeing their partners probably a lot more than they want to. What are some, I'm just, speculating, but what are some of the challenges that your clients are facing, even with COVID right now?
Yeah. Great question. So I think crises like COVID or anything really reveal what was always there in the relationship, but for some reason or another, you were able to sort of limp along and it wasn't this like big thing. And so what I'm seeing with COVID, especially with my clients that have small children, is this fight for time, right? It's like nobody has enough time anymore. The demands of being home, homeschooling, getting the kids whatever they need really creates, if you don't have excellent communication, if you don't have just goodwill and belief that you guys, want to be a team and want to figure this out together, the whole thing can really crumble and it can create a lot of conflict where, especially for people who are more extroverted and are used to being out and connecting with other people, now, that real life face-to-face opportunities aren't as much. And so they're just not thriving as an individual, which then sort of bleeds into the relationship with their spouse. And then also just being in each other's space, right? Depending on how people navigate that, right? Like you might have an agenda for how you like to be spending your day. Your spouse might have another agenda that infringes upon yours. And so there's so many more connection points, but there's also so many more conflict points. And again, a lot of my clients do have small children. And when you're stressed and overwhelmed as an individual and you feel like your partner isn't, rising to the occasion or helping as much as you would like, it's a major issue. I think, sometimes people make a lot of assumptions and want, someone to anticipate their needs, to notice their needs, to do something about their needs. And yes, communication will help with that. But I find that really the main thing is just having an expectation that's realistic. And a lot of times people don't want to let go of the expectations they have because they're really attached to them and they really believe it's the only way things should be. And I always like to challenge that. I think we have a lot of expectations. We've been conditioned to have a lot of expectations without ever questioning them, without ever looking outside our spouse to be the one to sort of check off that box. And I think COVID is bringing that up for people in a new way that, again, before this, they could sort of limp along and not have it be such a gaping issue in the relationship.
Gosh, you said so many good things I want to pull apart there. So communication is key. We know this. Expectations, right? So for those of people who are in a relationship or in a marriage or maybe seeking a relationship, what are some ways would you say are the best ways to communicate in a relationship and even outside a relationship?
Yeah, I think communication is really just a manifestation of the story going on in your own head. So if
Mm-hmm.
you want to improve your communication, you have to first communicate the thoughts, the thinking, the belief systems that you have. And so I think when it comes to communication, people focus on being understood. They focus on saying what they want to say so that the
Yeah.
person gets it,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to really seeing communication as just an opening for understanding to occur, right? And that really goes both ways. People all the time say that I don't listen to understand. I'm always listening to respond. And so it's sort of like,
Yes.
why? Why are you doing that? And it comes from this belief that your perspective is more important than the other person's. And so if you can just take a step back and realize that your perspective is equally important, right? If that's the mindset set shift that you have, then engaging in a conversation, there's not this like fight to say what you want to say before the other person does. You can approach it with a little bit more patience of like, okay, I'm going to have my turn and they're going to have their turn. And I think that makes a huge difference when you can just level it out. Like, my opinion is not more important than my partner's. Their opinion is not more important than mine. It's not my job to convince them of anything. And it's also okay if we don't agree and see things the exact same way all the time. We have two different brains for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And honoring that, appreciating that will really just help you resolve a lot of conflict.
I love what you just said because that is true. A lot of times we speak and we listen just to respond. We're not really hearing what the person is saying. One thing that I do in coaching is when I have a client who says something to me, I reiterate it back. Is this what I heard? Is this exactly what I heard? Perfect, before I move forward. Same as it is in relationships. I've been guilty of that in the past too, like where I'm just like, my point is more important because I need you to hear what I'm saying. But I've learned in the coaching thing too, when you start, you study in coaching and you're actually like certified and you understand how to actually coach effectively, you can take so much of that and apply it to your life. So now when I'm listening, regardless, even if it's my sisters, we're having a little hiccup here and there, it's okay. Well, what is she saying that I'm missing? Like, what is her key issue or whatever? And then I can actually respond to that versus, hey, this is my issue. And that's all I hear is what I need to be, what I need you to meet me on. I need you to respond to this. But
Yeah.
I love what you said, that all points are equally important in a relationship, or even in business, people. Communication, and I always say this, Dr. Chavonne, is critical to success. You got to be able to communicate what you want. You got to be able to communicate it effectively. And in communication, it's two ways. It's not I'm talking and that's it. It's I'm talking, you're listening. Now you're talking, I'm listening. And that is what I find when you're doing that in relationships, any form of relationship, you're more effective about actually being heard. And then you can actually move toward a resolution. When you did so and so, I didn't like the way you said that, or it made me feel this way. Even in texting, would you find it's hard to share emotion? Like, you could say something with love, but it comes across very harsh, which is sometimes why I'd rather pick up the phone and like talk to someone and say, hey, this is what I meant versus sending a text. So love that. Communication, people, is key. We know this in a relationship, even if you're single, be able to communicate, but also be able to listen attentively is what I'm hearing. Now I want to pick on the point of expectation. How many, right? How many people go into a relationship with expectations? I need my partner to be XYZ to me. And if you're not there, then you're not measuring up. That can create conflict. Or you go into a relationship expecting that you can change someone. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I thought I could change him. I thought I could change her. What would you say to the people out there are thinking that way? I thought I could change so and so. Or this is my
Yeah.
expectation. Yeah, take the floor.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you really have to get real about where the person is and decide, is this something I'm okay with if it never changes? Or if it gets a little bit worse, because sometimes people get more ingrained in who they are
Yeah.
and, then sort of releasing some of those things. And so I think you're right. I think a lot of times people partner for potential as opposed to partnering for reality. And yes, we're all going to grow, we're all going to evolve. And one of the things I always tell my clients is, even in a marriage where you feel like you guys are starting out on the same page, where there's not really much you want to change about your spouse, over the years, right? Like your pace, like you have these parallel journeys where you're going to grow at a rate and your spouse is going to grow at a rate. And sometimes you guys are going to be step to step. Sometimes you're going to be a farther ahead. Sometimes they're going to be farther ahead. And you have to really keep your eye on the long-term goal of, they're going to get where they're supposed to be. They're going to be in their journey when they're supposed to be there. My only job is to love and support them and accept them wherever they happen to be. And to just be okay with that, to find the sufficiency, to find where it's enough, as opposed to having like an ulterior motive of like, well, that's where they are right now. But, you know, when we get married, or when we have a child, or when we buy a house, or when we do whatever the case may be, then I expect them to be different. And that's the quickest way to set yourself up for a disappointment.
I love what you just said there. And I want to say I was guilty of that. The other day I said, look, because for people out there always like, are you single? Are you married? I am single. Technically, I'm divorced. I was married, long distance. It didn't work out. Expectations, like, I thought falling in love with potential, right? Which is something I don't do anymore, because I want to make sure that who you are right now, I can accept that. And if I can't accept that, then I don't think it's worth the time, because it's investment, right? Whatever we put in, we can't get back. Like, I'm critical and very intentional about how I spend my time with my schedule, my family, my daughter, because again, we can never get it back. So I've said to myself, don't fall in love with potential. Fall in love with what's actually there. Can you love and accept the person for who they are? And hopefully, like you just said, that some of those things you don't like potentially may get worse. So are you okay with that? But more importantly, you want to support them in achieving, growth, but more importantly, focusing on yourself and helping you to grow and evolve. And hopefully you guys are growing and evolving together, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So any questions for Dr. Chavonne out there, feel free to put them in the Q&A or the comment section. Thanks for the love out there, people. So for the people that are single, or, who've been in a relationship and ended, maybe it ended in divorce or it didn't work out, are there some things that you could share that are around like success tips for having a successful marriage or a successful relationship beyond, communication, expectation? What are some things that people probably should look out for based on their personality and aligning with another partner? Are there things that you think work well and don't work well? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think one of the most important things is, your relationship will be successful to the degree to which you know yourself. And so I think for anyone that's single, I always do this values exercise with my clients, where it's sort of like, what are your values? What are the things you really care about? So, for me, it's, fun, integrity, right? You could literally, if you don't know what values are, because when I first came across it, I was like, well, what are values exactly? You can literally Google list of values, and there's beautiful exercises. So knowing what your core values are, and making sure that the person you select has complementary values. They don't need to have the exact same, but if you value spontaneity and fun, and your partner values structure and regimen, right? Like, you're going to be walking into a situation where you're already going to have the expectation and desire to do something that's outside of their comfort zone. And so again, it's sort of like knowing yourself. And in addition to the values, I think it's really important that you are really aware of what your emotional needs are. So all of us as human beings carry a heavy bag of just experiences we've had. Some people, it's anxiety, it's fear of rejection, it's fear of abandonment, right? Like, whatever your thing is, I think the more that you are conscious of that, the more you take the time to sort of heal those things, soothe those things, and not expect that having a partner is going to fill that void, then the better partner you will be. I hear so often, I ask my clients, and the people in my Facebook group, I'm like, what do you most want from your spouse, right? Everyone wants to feel loved and appreciated and valued. And my question is always, to what degree are you loving, appreciating, and valuing yourself? Because we are conditioned to have this expectation that a partner is going to make you feel those things. Nobody makes you feel anything. The way you feel something is by the thoughts you have and the story you tell yourself about it. And so a lot of times when it comes to expectations, people are looking for their spouse to do certain things to make it then mean, oh, he cares about me. Oh, she really thinks I'm important. And it's never their actions that cause you to feel an emotion in your body. I always say that. It's sort of like, okay, he sent you a text. And so like, did he go in your body and make you feel important? Is that like the connection we're trying to make here? No, that's not how it worked. He sent you the text. You made it mean something in your own mind, right? And if he doesn't send you the text, you also make that mean something in your own mind, which may or not be true at all. But a lot of times we tell ourselves a story that causes us harm, and then we feel a certain way, but then we blame the other person, or we over attribute us feeling loved to what another person is doing, when really love is an experience and an emotion that you get to generate yourself by the way that you think.
I love what you just said about that. There was a lot of great stuff in there, but love is the way you experience it for yourself, how you love yourself, right? Essentially, and I said this like a few years ago, like if you don't actually know how to love yourself, how to respect yourself, how do you know how to love and respect anybody else? You've got to know how to love you first. And only then can you be able to express that to someone else. And if you're waiting on somebody to fill the void, I have a couple clients, you know, male and female, who are just constantly dating, trying to find the one. I was like, when was the last time you dated yourself? What do you mean dated myself? Like, I've never even heard that. I'm like, when was the last time you dated yourself? What you expect from a partner, when was the last time you did that for you? And it was just like this whole mindset, like, aha, wow, I've never actually done that because I've been expecting my partner to fulfill these needs. And when my partner does not fulfill these needs, well, then this can't be the right partner, or it causes conflict or friction or tension. But the thing is, and I think a lot of times we forget this, is that it starts with ourselves. Loving ourselves, appreciating ourselves, feeling that fulfillment based on our own emotions. And nobody, I was saying this the other day to a friend, they went into a store, they got really upset because they didn't feel like the person treated them properly. I said, look, nobody should have the power to make you come out of character or out of your integrity of who you are. You need to know who you are. And life is like this. You're going to meet some people who are loving, generally loving and caring and are responsive. And some people that no matter how kind you are to them, they don't care. They're just angry or they're hurt. And it's usually something that's maybe happened in their childhood or their day-to-day that they're still holding on to. So how you treat people is a reflection, I believe, of how you treat yourself and vice versa. We do got a question for you. And I have another question for you. Okay, so we got this from Bree Hardaway. Dr. Chavonne, when it comes to expectations, how do we handle our spouse not meeting our core values? Great question. Dr. Chavonne, what's your response?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think, of course, it's a longer conversation, but I'll give you my short answer, which is you have to be able to look very objectively at the expectations in the first place. We never challenge our expectations. We never inquire, why do we have this expectation? What are we looking to receive? What are we looking to feel if our spouse does meet this expectation? So I would actually look at the expectation, ask yourself, why is this important to me? What will be different if my spouse does meet this expectation? How would I be different if my spouse met this expectation? That is the first stream. And then if you find that you really like your reasons there, that it's an expectation that you love, that honors really the best of you, then you can look and evaluate your spouse, right? Is this person meeting this expectation to my level of satisfaction? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then you want to investigate further. Is this something that they absolutely have to do? Is this something that they are the only person in my life that could fulfill this role? In some areas, the answer will be yes, right? and others it may not. And I think a lot of times with women, especially, a lot of my clients are, wanting a more intimate, emotional connection with their husband. And maybe he's not as emotionally available, or he's not as supportive or as encouraging or just as tender or engaged and as enthusiastic about things as they would like. And I think as women, because that is our nature and that's how we interact with each other, when our husband doesn't respond the way we would respond, we think something's wrong with him. And a lot of times it's just the way he's wired. Like, he's not going to respond the way your best girlfriend is, right? He's not going to know if you're crying or upset to go, oh, baby, what's wrong with you, right? We see that in the movies, but that's not how the majority of men are wired. And so we then make it mean he's wrong rather than asking the question, okay, well, he's not as engaged in this topic as I would like him to be. He's not as, much of a cheerleader, especially for those of us who are entrepreneurs. He's not like supporting me at the level that I want to. Then it becomes, okay, can you find another fellow entrepreneur, another friend who is similar to you, who is going to respond the way you want? Can you relieve some of the pressure for him to be the end all be all for that area of your life? And then if you find that you can find and meet those needs elsewhere, right, in a healthy, appropriate way, like through friendships, right, then, then it's okay. Then you can just like lean back and not, try to nudge and convince him that he needs to be this certain type of way for you. Now, if it really is genuinely a deal breaker, you have to get real with yourself about that. And so if you're finding that there are a lot of deal breakers where legitimately you're like, no, I can't let this go. This is extremely important to me. This is a core value that I will not budge on. And your spouse is unwilling or unable for whatever reason to meet you there, then that is just a tough decision that you're going to have to make. It doesn't mean that you have to rush to make the decision. It doesn't mean that you have to make the decision with frustration and aggravation and anger. It can be done with love. It can just be like, hey, this is really important to me. This is what I really value. And I see that like, we're just not a match here. And that's okay. Like, I can release you with love so that you can really be who you are and not have me trying to force and impose my expectations on you. And then I can go pursue, a life and maybe another partner down the road that maybe is a better match for me. So I hope that answered your question, Bree, and, for sure, message me or reach out if you want to talk more about that.
Wow. Great. I don't have anything to add except to that is don't make emotional decisions. That's one thing I've learned. Don't make decisions out of emotion in life, in business, and relationships. Wait until you're calm and you've had a chance to really evaluate the situation at hand, and then make a decision that's best for you. And I think sometimes, especially being a single parent like myself, like when I chose to get divorced, I thought about, oh my God, I'm going to be a single parent. I don't want to be. No one ever goes into a marriage thinking that you want to be. That's not the outcome. But if there's certain values that you hold and your partner is just not meeting it, and you've tried and you've tried again, then what do you do? Do you stay and be unhappy just because you want to say you have a partner? Or do you make the move, which was hard, and say, hey, no, I'm willing to do this on my own, and still, provide an opportunity for them to connect and build that relationship, because I believe every child needs their parents, men, women, whatever, still be able to foster that relationship. But what's better for you? So that at the end of the day, you're okay. Because if you're not okay, you can't be good to your child or yourself, your business partners, your relationships, your partner. Like, self is critical in all of it. So I like what you said there, Dr. Chavonne, about finding out what is really, the core values. Can we fix it? If we can't fix it, make that decision out of love, not out of hate or out of anger or frustration, but out of love. What's best for you? What's best for them? So great response. I took a lot of from there. I got a question around, what do you do, or how do you coach somebody who's been hurt from a past relationship and they find that they keep getting hurt in the same form? Is it something that they're doing? Or is it something that they're holding on to still? Like, what would you say around that realm of moving on from the past and staying present in the future relationship?
Yeah, I think this is where really knowing yourself comes in. And so I think honestly for me, when I think about when I met my husband and what was the shift, because I had had a very, you know, very distinct relational pattern with the people that I dated before. And so I was like, oh, I keep finding the same guys who have the same behaviors. And I
Yeah.
remember just knowing that about myself and being like, okay, I got to change it up. And again, this was before I even knew about coaching. And so what I could see was my own mindset and my own thinking and like my insecurities drawing in these people that were really just like the perfect puzzle piece for my insecurity, right? And so
Hmm.
when you know like what is that for yourself, what is the thing, when you look at your self concept, right, and you think about who you are in a relationship, what are the things that you love about who you are in a relationship? What are the things that you're insecure about and you feel are weaknesses? And how are the people that you're attracting like the perfect match for those weaknesses? So then when you can see that, then you can begin to build yourself up in those areas and you'll begin to attract a totally different type of person. I think when you are single and looking for a partner, that's when you want to have your standards high. That's when you really do want to maintain your core values and make sure that the person you are dating is a match for that. A lot of times, I'll talk with people and I'm like, well, when did you have a good time in your relationship? When was it amazing? And they're like, well, it was actually troubled from the beginning. There were all these yellow red flags and I just ignored them. And so I think when you're single, it's so important, especially if you notice like this pattern of like, all my relationships seem to like begin and end this way, or, the people I'm dating always are emotionally unavailable or always have problems committing and things like that, then you want to take a look at what is it within you, which is, I think, when having a coach is such an amazing thing, because sometimes you just have blind spots. Like, your mind, your brain, but you're not able to look at it from an external viewpoint and say like, no, this is the type of thinking that keeps recreating this result in your life.
Absolutely. Mindset again, right? It's like
Yeah.
thinking about what are your insecurities, and are you attracting that? Are you attracting someone to try and fulfill that void? And a good thing that I always say to my clients, even myself, is become like who you really want to be so you can attract who you really want to attract, right? And
Hmm.
knowing that, like, a lot of times I feel like as women, we feel like we need to rush because, oh my God, we have the clock that's ticking. I'm getting older. I need to have a kid or a baby, or I want to extend
Yeah.
my family. And then you end up making decisions out of fear and not out
Hmm.
of faith. I have a client who, we were just talking about this the other day. It was like, are you operating in this relationship out of faith or out of fear? And by the time we were done all our, activities and stuff, it was like, she's operating out of fear. Well, why? Do you feel
Hmm.
like, oh my God, I feel like time's running out. But is this the right person for you? So even though you're in a relationship that I have a boyfriend or whatever, or a girlfriend, you're still wasting time if you know that that person's not a right match for you. And so I
Hmm.
also encourage people to find out what their love language is, as an individual, and what's really important to you. Everybody's different. Some people at the top, it's, touch, it's words of affirmation, acts of service, or financial, whatever that might look like. But know what you value, like you mentioned, Dr. Chavonne, and stay true to that and work on yourself and know that you'll attract the right person. And I always say this: don't act out of fear, act in faith. So a lot of
Yeah.
times, even as men go through things too. Men deal with confidence issues, not feeling like they're enough. I was talking with a gentleman the other day because I'm working on a summit for men, and he was like, do you know that men like to be told they smell good, they look good too? Men have that. When men like words of affirmation as well, or babe, good job on that, I really appreciate it. And that actually motivates them to want to do more. Whereas,
Mhm.
sometimes I think when we forget that men have that sensitive side too, even though they're taught to be macho and masculine, and I can't show emotion. It's a sign of weakness, but it's a sign of strength. And it really goes back to communication.
Yeah.
Communicate what you need in a relationship, what you want in a relationship, and making sure that you two can actually fulfill that. But more importantly, that even on your own, you're fulfilled. A
Yeah.
relationship does not fulfill you. It's a complement. It's an addition. So, great points there, Dr. Chavonne. Anybody else have any questions while we were out here? Because we're going to be wrapping up shortly. And while we give them a chance, Dr. Chavonne, I want to ask you, so you've been in business. A big part of why I do the show too is to encourage other entrepreneurs, people who are thinking of starting their business. Do you want to share what maybe one or a couple successes or rewards of being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I think a lot of times people are afraid to jump in the pool of entrepreneurship because the job that they have feels very secure. And
Mhm.
as a coach, what I know is like security, again, like any emotion is created by your thinking and not necessarily the circumstances. And I think for a lot of people, we see now, especially with what's happened with COVID, that jobs you thought were once secure are not actually secure. And
Mhm.
so I think like one of the great benefits of entrepreneurship is you are betting on yourself. And when you have the right mindset, right, the right support system and coaching and all of that stuff, like your mind can literally create anything. You can become unstoppable. The sky is the limit to your earning potential, right? You never have to worry about getting that 3% raise or asking for the bonus or whatever the case may be. It's like, no, if you want to make more money, you put your mind to work for you to make more money. And it can do that. I know it's like a vague concept that people are like, what are you even talking about?
I know,
But
right?
it absolutely can. Literally, anything you can conceive of in your mind, it can create it, right? Like you
Yes.
have the tools within you to make it a reality. And then I think what is also amazing about entrepreneurship is you get to create your own circle of support, right? So when you work for an organization or you work for a business, your colleagues are your colleagues, right? And when you're an entrepreneur, especially with social media, especially with so many groups and ways to be connected, you can literally like hand and cherry pick your team, right? Your like cheering squad, whatever. Like it's very easy nowadays to find people who are like minded, who might be at the same stage of business that you're in, and build a connection with them and really be able to support each other in the journey.
Great, great points there. And I want to touch on that mindset thing again. It's the power of your subconscious mind. A lot of people don't understand. We got the conscious mind who, I'm going to wear this to work, or I'm going to drive this route, or I'm going to drink this coffee, or whatever. It's conscious. But the subconscious, you're digesting, you're swallowing, you're breathing without telling your body to do that. And so, as much as I know it sounds vague because it is a very complex concept. You want to get into the science of it all, but your mind has the ability to create your reality. And a lot of people, I always say this over and over again, if you don't believe it, you won't receive it. You have
Mm-hmm.
to actually, and that's why I talk big on like creating the vision and the goals and then actually visualizing yourself doing that. There's people who have done this. I've done this. I'm still doing this. And you call it maybe manifestation or whatever you want to call it, but you have the ability to create your reality. If you want to think negative and focus on the negative, I'll guarantee you there'll be a lot of negative things coming up in your life. People call it Murphy's Law. I have a client who's like Murphy's Law. Every time I think my client's going to cancel whatever they do, well, you keep saying it. You're putting it out there, so it's going to happen. But if you change your thought process around it, and like even affirmations, I say this, Dr. Chavonne, they don't really work unless you believe it.
Yeah.
Everything begins with your belief system. If you're receiving certain things in your life, or you're not receiving certain things in your life, it's most likely due to your self-limiting beliefs. Do you believe you can have it? Do you believe you deserve it? Can you even
Mm-hmm.
envision it? But I always say, if you got the vision, you got it for a reason. Trust God, it'll happen. But you got to take the first step, and you got to move out of that comfort zone, which is so nice and cozy that people think, oh, my job, I could never get fired. I'll just keep working. I might get the raise, or I might get the promotion. I hope that if you're doing that, it's because you actually generally love what you do in your career. But if you know deep down that you want to be doing something else, you want to
Mm-hmm.
start that side business or whatever that looks like, or that dream business, but you're thinking from a mindset, I'm not capable. You're not. But if you can start saying I am capable and finding resources like coaches like us, I have a coach. I believe everybody needs a coach to
Mm-hmm.
help you to create that vision and the strategy and to keep you motivated, then you can have it. So people out there, I want you to know that if your mind, like she just said, that's one of my favorite things. If your mind can conceive it, you better believe you can achieve it. So as we're wrapping up, I'm big on success quotes or, I like positivity. Do you have a favorite quote, Dr. Chavonne, that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I have a lot. I have so many. I was like, oh, how do I pick one? So one
Yeah.
of them is actually scripture, which really I think speaks to this power of like what you're capable of. And it's Ephesians 3:20. It's now unto him that's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that's in work within us. And I feel like this is really just talking about like you really have the power to do anything, right? Like God's vision for you is so much bigger than what your own mind could imagine. And you have everything inside of you to achieve it. And then the other just quote that I loved is she believed she could, so she did. It's just
Yes.
like, just believe that you can and just go do it. It may not happen on the exact timeline in the exact way that you were thinking, but the only way to not achieve something is to not try and to give up. Yeah.
Exactly. And I want to say this, just echoing off what you're saying, is that people, again, the belief system and knowing what you want with clarity, right? And then working toward it. But like, they even say this, research proves you're 51% more able to achieve a goal just by believing it. You're already halfway there. You're more than halfway there by actually believing in the dream that you want to see. Maybe the dream husband, or the dream wife, or the dream business, or the dream promotion or career, whatever it is. If you can actually visualize it and believe that you can receive it, obviously you got to put in the work. You can't have a husband or a wife if you don't go out and mingle, or you're never where to be found, or you don't socialize. I don't think, they're going to just pop in that, I don't know how that works. I believe you got to put yourself out there. There's no mail in order. Well, yeah, there is that kind of, but you know what I mean? Like, there's a reason for everything. So even in this time, some people, I used to say this, I don't need a partner. I just want one, but I don't need a man or whatever. I realized that I switched that around really quickly earlier this summer. I'm like, I do need a partner. But I need the right partner. Opening up myself to be more emotionally available to what that could look like. And like you said, not expecting that partner to fulfill this laundry list, but making sure that they align with my values. And I think sometimes as women and men, we go into the relationship for the wrong reasons, because we're maybe could be out of comfort, or we stick in a relationship out of the wrong reasons. So as we're wrapping up, my gosh, I got my warning. This is a very good conversation, a good topic. It's to people out there is to know what you really want. I say with clarity, align that with your values, your purpose, and then move. Like you said, don't act out of fear. Take the faith, take the leap, and move in the direction of your goals and your dreams. So Dr. Chavonne, as we're wrapping up, how can people reach you? We got like 1 minute left, but I want to give you a chance to say, how do people find you?
Yeah, so if you're on Instagram, go straight to my profile. There's a link tree there, but you can also find me at drchavonne.com. It's drchavonne.com. There you'll find all the stuff.
Great. And thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I learned even a lot in this time together that I will take forward in my potential relationship. And I want to thank you for joining me and being so open and available.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation. It was great to be with you.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. All right. So I'll see you later on the other side. Take care and continue to change lives. I love what you do.
You too.
Let's do it. All right. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.